Welcome back, everybody, to the Podecito podcast. I am your host, Surreal469. Thank you for joining me here as we go episode by episode through our collective favorite show. Of course, I'm talking about the incomparable Las Vegas. This episode is not one of my collective favorite episodes, but it's not one of the worst either, as I touched on in the previous episodes. We are in episode 19 of the season and the series, Don't You Know? It is Sons and Lovers. This episode aired March 22nd, 2004, with an IMDb rating of 7.6 out of 10, which, okay, and 3.5 out of 5 chips from Las Vegas-theseries.com, making the aggregate score from both of them 7.3 out of 10, or a C rating, which I'm not necessarily going to argue about. This episode was written by the puppet master himself, Gary Scott Thompson and Gardner Stern. We have a new director in the seat for this episode. This is David Solomon, whose apparent trademarks, as far as IMDb is concerned, is his uneven temper. I assume on set, and that must have been a volatile thing for him to have to go through, or for the rest of the cast to have to go through in dealing with him. David's first directing credit was on an episode of Matlock back in 1989. He has done a few other things, skipping along to 10 episodes of our favorite show, Las Vegas. This is his first one. His next episodes are in Season 2, he does Centennial. In Season 3, he does Viva... Centennial's, that's an interesting episode when we get to it. Season 3, he does Viva Las Vegas, Everything Old Is You Again, Urban Legends, Chaos Theory. In Season 4, he does Died in Plain Sight, and Delinda's Box, Part 1. That episode. He also does Bare Chested in the Park and Heroes. That episode. The Heroes episode. That episode. So, apparently his uneven temper was even enough for 10 full episodes of our favorite show. So, we'll see David Solomon a little bit later on. He also went on to do an episode of Big Shots with Christopher Titus and Josh Molina. That's a good show. Find it if you can. He directed an episode of Blue Bloods, starring future star of Las Vegas, Tom Selleck. And the latest directing credit to David Solomon's IMDb, he also did, no, not Hawaii Five-0, he did do something with Scotty Conn, though, called Alert Missing Persons in 2024 for one episode. So that is David Solomon. He's done a lot of action, and he's done some action, he's done some dramas, he's done like some Star Trek thing, he's just an Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., so he's suited for the kind of, certainly certain elements that you will find in a show like Las Vegas. He also, by the way, I didn't want to not mention this, he did an episode of Gary Scott Thompson's version of Knight Rider. That is our director, David Solomon. So this episode starts with someone being dispensed a lot of money. As a matter of fact, it is $10,000. $10,000 in 2025 money is $16,606.09. So that is a hefty chunk of change that man is carrying with him, as well as with Sam. Sam, who's walking with him because, of course, why not? She does often walk with her whales. The whale is talking about what a glorious day it is. He's having a fantastic day. He's tipping people. But he is flashing around the cash. And you don't want to do that out in public too often, even and especially in Vegas, where people are down on their luck and they're desperate and they'll do anything to get a leg up in the world. He is flashing a lot of cash around, and we see a blonde woman eyeing him. He's already got attention. And other people aren't necessarily looking at him. And then there's a man with the goatee, he's paying attention. Mike comes up behind him. Even Mike is talking about how he got the brake pads replaced on the guy's car, and he gets tipped a couple of hundies. The guy, or a significant amount of money. And wait a minute, hold on a second. We see wait a second. There's a blonde extra there with the black leather jacket. Does he look familiar? I don't know. He looks like family. Maybe I'm wrong.
And then I won this at the craps table. Who's got it better than me?
Probably nobody. What would you like to do now?
I want
maybe
to
you could
celebrate my good fortune by handing out obscenely excessive tips.
I got your brake pads replaced, Mr. Rodney. Car's in the garage.
Well, thank you, Mike.
Yeah.
Now go have some fun.
But he is looking on, and Sam is warning him not to flash the cash around. There's another man that takes a look at him, a brunette man, and there's another brunette man in a leather jacket checking out him flashing out the cash as we pass through to see Ed walking over to guest services area, and we whoosh over through the elevator down to the poolside area, and we see the silhouette of just a lovely, lovely silhouette of this gorgeous woman in this big hat, and she looks a little familiar. Ed is seeing her, well, specifically he's noticing someone else checking her out, this young, vague-looking young man, but he's definitely built. He's got his shirt open and everything. He's checking out this gorgeous blonde, and Ed DeLine comes up behind him and asks him if he's enjoying the pool. Because he's enjoying the pool so much, he's actually going to be gifted a cabana because for some reason he was checking out Jillian, and Ed had to stop the young man from checking out his wife. That is Jillian DeLine. That is an angel. And clearly still in shape, Jillian DeLine here.
Hi. Ed DeLine.
Al Kornstein.
Enjoying the pool, are you, Al?
Yeah.
Would you, give Mr. Kornstein a cabana? Like that one over there.
Yes, sir.
You have a nice day there, Al. Hi, honey.
Hi. Is it lunch already?
And Ed, without trying to necessarily make a scene, gets the young man to stop leering at his gorgeous wife. Meanwhile, another attractive, muscled man is coming. He's just a waiter, though. He's coming to take care of Jillian, and Ed shoos him away as well. The two of them run into Mark McGrath, who is playing himself here in this particular episode. And Mark and Jillian seem to have a nice, friendly relationship. There's a peck on the cheek and a hug, and Ed is slightly not comfortable with this, but Ed even decides to look back and see that Mark McGrath is walking away from Jillian and not particularly checking her out.
Thank you. Hi. Oh, nice to see you. You want to go to lunch?
You know, I'd love to, but the guys are waiting for me to rehearse, so how about a rain check?
Yeah, rain check. Great, absolutely.
So this is a good idea. This is a good time here to talk about who Mark McGrath is. Mark McGrath of Sugar Ray fame has been in a lot of stuff. However, he hasn't been in a lot of stuff where he's played basically anything but Mark McGrath, really, or not just been a cameo. This is not a cameo because he's in it longer than a cameo, but he's really just playing Mark McGrath. So in stuff that he hasn't played Mark McGrath in includes, in 2003, he played Asshole Golfer in Pauly Shore is Dead in 2003. That was his acting debut of playing something other than Mark McGrath, unless he's still supposed to be Mark McGrath. They just credited him as Asshole Golfer. He started to try to do a little bit more stuff than that. He did Second Chance for Christmas. He tried to get into the Hallmark Christmas market. That's a TV movie. He plays the ghost of Jack Love. And the last thing you can hear him in is he's been narrating the Dark Side series in terms of Dark Sides of the 90s, Dark Sides of the 2000s or whatever for Vice TV. That's basically been it. The Second Chance movie was the last thing that he played in where he didn't just play Mark McGrath or as a narrator. So Sam is back in the casino with her whale, who has been flashing the $10,000. And the whale accidentally bumps into the blonde lady who was checking him out. Oh, how inconvenient, especially since the guy in the brown leather jacket who was also checking him out just happens to pick his pocket at the exact same time.
Oh, that's okay. I'm Lydia, so sorry to hear. Over here to help you.
Thank you. It's okay. It's okay. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's okay.
Whoa, wait a
My
minute.
money's gone.
Yeah, bump and run,
money-
white male, brown leather jacket, out the door. You okay?
Yeah.
White female, pink shirt, green skirt.
So Sam immediately calls in the bump and run. That's called the bump and run. And she calls it into security. And she starts chasing after the woman with the blonde woman who did the bumping. Mike is dashing. He's got a great stride, too. And he is running after the guy in the leather coat who picked the pocket. Ed is called in, and he has to leave lunch with Jillian, who is not impressed with the fact that Ed has to leave lunch. So Ed goes back into the casino, and he tracks down the blonde young lady who thinks she's going to walk away, but she's not. Ed grabs her arm. Danny has taken off in his car. Mike is still chasing the guy through the back of service areas, and here comes Danny, who pushes the guy through with his car, with his SS, into the bushes somewhere.
Honey, a guy just got robbed at the casino. I'll be right back. Don't move. Don't let him move, okay?
Excuse me. I'd like to take you somewhere where we can talk a little bit, okay? If you don't mind.
Can I give you a ride? I was going to catch him, you know.
That's pretty impressive. Mike, listen, give it to James LeJour. James LeJour was hauling ass. James LeJour, I wouldn't be surprised if James LeJour was a runner, because he probably maybe basketball player or something. Maybe he may have done some track and field, because he had a great stride. He was hauling. He was hauling in that suit, boy. He was hauling. Cut to the intro then. Greatest intro in the business. Do we skip the intro? Why would you skip the intro to Las Vegas? If your streaming service asks you if you want to skip intro, you skip that streaming service. Or don't. I can't tell you what to do. What I can tell you is that we're back and we're in interrogation this time. It's Ed and Danny with the blonde woman. The blonde woman is pretending like she never met the guy. She says,
Congratulations, you two just won the Daily Double. You both have priors, and you're both on our surveillance tape stealing.
I didn't do anything. Is it a crime to accidentally bump into someone? I mean, I don't even know this jerk.
You lying bitch. It was her idea.
now wait a minute. If you're going to do a bump and run, isn't half the theory that you don't rat somebody else out, that you know what the play is? So even if you get caught, you know what to say when the play is. Like, yes, sure. The play should be that you can't prove that she did it on purpose, right? If she's any good at the bump and run. And from what we saw, she wasn't really particularly. Like, she lingered on him a while, like longer than necessary. And I'm sure some of that is for TV. But again, one of my favorite shows is Leverage. I've seen better versions of that. However, they've also got 5 seasons, at least of the original, where they were able to perfect that and make it look cleaner with different editing and stuff like that. They wanted it to look plainly obvious for somebody who was watching this episode of Las Vegas. But isn't that the play? Aren't you not supposed to rat out your cohort? Why is he mad? If anything, what his plan should be is that he takes a larger set of the cut because he's the one doing the actual picking of the pocket. And if he gets caught, they can actually prove that he may have done something more than her because she won't have the money on her. But what do I know? I will say this about the interaction with Ed and Danny in this interrogation scene. Their interplay is a lot better. Danny has gotten a lot better with playing a good cop, a bad cop with the interrogations than we've seen him in earlier episodes. And at this point, they're trying to get some cooperation out of the two of them. But the best they're able to do is that the guy says he doesn't remember where the wallet ended up. So we're back in Mystique with Sam and Mike, who are talking to the whale. And the guy says he's not even necessarily upset that he lost the wallet or the money. It's that he's got a poem in his wallet written by his daughter for Father's Day. And it's sentimental to him. And he would like that back, if nothing else. Ed manages to make his way back to lunch with Jillian. That must have been fairly quick assessment and going to grab the guy. His burger's even waiting for him. And Jillian is slightly upset that Ed feels like he has to be present for every security issue that takes place in the Montecito. They start having this kind of semi-argument about Ed and his responsibilities to her as a husband, and Jillian says that there's something that she really wanted to speak with Ed about, specifically that she wants to go back to work.
But you don't need a job. I mean, what the heck would you do anyway?
Something that would allow me to interact with other human beings. I mean, ever since Delinda left the house, do you have any idea what I do all day? I go to the club. If I'm not at the club, I go to the spa.
I know a lot of people want that job.
Jillian, yes. Yes, he's right. There are a lot of people who would want that job. To be fair to Ed, or to be fair to Jillian, come on, Ed. Like, yes, at a certain point, though, you get bored. And that's why Ed is still working. I am sure that the Alliance have more than enough money so that Ed doesn't have to work anymore. I'm sure he's got investments and stuff. They don't necessarily need to work, I'm sure. Even with trying to upkeep Jillian's shopping sprees in Budapest. But he wants to work. I would imagine that Ed is the kind of guy, like my dad, who couldn't not work. He couldn't sit still. He couldn't not retire. My dad was always semi-retired because he always picked up a job doing something somewhere else because that's just the way his brain worked. That's just the way his body worked. Same thing with Ed. Ed cannot just sit still and be retired. Are you kidding me? He's not going to sit on a golf course all day long. But he does expect Jillian to do, huh? Jillian says she wants excitement. Ed says, I understand that. You can tell on his face that he absolutely does not understand it.
What I meant was, look, I know you have an appointment at the spa today, and if that's something you don't feel like doing, great.
I don't get it. No, I want variety. I want some excitement.
I understand that.
No, you don't.
I do. Look, we'll talk the minute your massage is over. We'll talk. I want you to call me the minute that...
Basically, Ed put his foot in his mouth here. Ed should have been supportive of Jillian wanting to go back to work. Just because of what I said. Like, there is something to that. There's some people that retirement suits them and not doing anything and being on their own time, that's great, right? And they could do anything in their leisure, that's fine. But there's also some people who need that stimulus. They need something to keep them going. That's not even necessarily the money. They just need something productive to do to keep their mind sharp and to keep their mind working and more than just Sudoku puzzles. And I feel like that's probably Jillian. So let her do that. Why? There's no other than wanting her to rest and relax. But if there's not a physical reason why she can't go back to work, if working is the way that she relaxes or the way that she stimulates her mind so that she can feel more fulfilled, let her do it. We cut back to surveillance, and we see Sarah's body for the first time. I love Sarah's body. Oh, she's going to be a recurring guest star. Sarah's body. I love Sarah's body. I'm so happy to see her for the first time. Yes, Sarah's body. We don't see her long enough. She's not in this series enough. We'll get to that in the coming season when she pops back up again. But I love me some Sarah's body. So Sarah's body is talking to Danny about an anomaly she has picked up in the system. She is one of the system analysts for the casino.
That signifies a $500 payout. Thrice, in 3 days, same machine.
Thrice in 3 days, huh? Well, that doesn't seem that unusual.
Yes, given the laws of randomness, this would normally not be noteworthy. But if you look at the particular sequence of mathematical events...
Do I have to?
Danny, shut up. This is Sarah's body. And I know, listen, Danny, I get it. Sometimes numbers can be boring. Spreadsheets can be boring. You're staring at a screen, everything starts to cross and uncross, and especially after you've just chased down a pickpocket, you're more into the action stuff than you are into the computer stuff. However, you should listen to Sarasvati because...
Do you know what Saraswati means in Sanskrit? Goddess of learning. I know what I'm doing.
You tell him, baby. You tell him. You tell him, baby. So Danny's going to check out the $500 anomaly. By the way, if you're thinking about it, in today's money, that $500 anomaly equals an $842.06 anomaly 3 times a day, which translates to roughly around almost $2,500 a day, right? Around $2,500 a day. That's not insignificant. That ain't insignificant. That's rent. That's more than rent, actually, in most places. Depending on how big a place you have, that's more than rent. And certainly was more than rent back then. Are you kidding? Whew, 3 times? Are you kidding? $1,500 a day? That's back in 2004. That is close to 3 times rent, especially in Vegas. Now it's less than 1, but that's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother day. You know who else we get to see in this episode? Cosme! It's the return of Cosme! I love me some Cosme! Cosme is back! Unfortunately, this is the last time we see Cosme. I know! I like Cosme. They could have brought Cosme back more often. They could have had him do more lounge appearances in the Bella Sera. He could have been a funny character that they brought in from time to time. I like Cosme, man. They could have just had him playing in the background. I like Cosme. Though I do think that probably what happened, John Briones probably had other commitments and stuff that he was doing. It was probably better for his career to go off and act in those performances than to have to sit around and wait for a call from GST every day, but every week. But it's the last time we see Cosme, man. Drink him in, baby. Drink him in. Cosme is singing. I guess this is a musical cue. She's a lady. I mean, it's in all versions because he's singing it. And it's a great version, too. Cosme is really good. He's singing to all the ladies in the casino. He's walking around the casino. He's drinking in all the woman in orange behind Mary is gorgeous. Go for it, Cosme. Sing it.
Well, she knows me through and through. And she knows just what to do and how to please me. She's a lady, whoa, 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 she's a lady, talking about the little lady, and the lady is mine. Thank you. And now we will take a short break, and we'll be back momentarily.
I love me some Cosme, man. Cosme is great. You know what? Speaking of Cosme, I don't think I ever went to Vegas and saw like a lounge act like that. I think they moved those out in the couple of years since this came about, because this aired in 2004. By the time I started actually going to Vegas, there weren't any like lounge acts like this in the casinos. Like, you might have had to like go to a theater or go to like a show someplace to see a lounge act, like go to an actual stage show. They didn't have them like in the lounges anymore. I think this was I wonder if this was like one of the last times that ever really happened. It's the last vestige of old Vegas. That like Las Vegas now is old Vegas. Ugh. So Cosme performing in the lounge is almost old Vegas, which isn't even the oldest Vegas, but we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about Las Vegas, and Cosme comes up and has a conversation with Mary, who was more than happy to have him back in the Bella Sera lounge because she's the one booking entertainment there now, because Johnny Justin, he had a little incident.
He just had a little misunderstanding with the IRS. He'll be back in about 18 months.
I wonder why they wrote Johnny Justin out. Like, maybe they just didn't feel like bringing him back in, which I get. Like, too many characters is too many characters. Let's let the dealer shuffle the deck for a second, and we'll be right back. If you're ready to find your fitness family focused on being knowledgeable, being open-hearted, getting results, and having an elevated experience, then you're ready for KORE. That's Core Nutrition Fitness. The NASM certified personal trainers at Core cater to all fitness levels, ages, and body types. Whether it's the Gluteus Maximus and Queen Camp classes for the ladies, or the Minute Monday weight training for everyone. If you're in the Los Angeles area and ready to build better health and great friendships, the Core Fitness family is the place for you. Go to CoreNutritionFitness.com now for details. That's KORE NutritionFitness.com. So Mary and Cosme are interrupted by Rose Gluck of Gluck Talent Management, who is trying to get a meeting with Mary Connell to audition some of her talent, specifically somebody named Bin Laden.
Bin Laden, and just let me say that the name on a less creative type might be considered a negative, but in this case has worked into his acting way so stunningly hilarious.
That is, in 2004, that's a terrible name. And you can change your name in entertainment. There are other things especially in Las Vegas. Las Vegas is a lot more country than people think it is. Remember Hellraisers and Heartbreakers? Las Vegas is a lot more country. There's a lot more, especially in 04 in the 2000s, a lot more Americana than people would think Nevada is. Like, come on, like that's certainly not going to play. I don't care if you think it's for shock value. It's terrible marketing. It's terrible marketing. Even in 2025, it's terrible marketing. It would have been bad marketing it would have been really bad marketing in the 90s had something like that happened. But in the 2000s, still terrible. Like, we kind of phased out of that kind of, you could kind of maybe semi get away with stuff like that in like the mid to late 90s. Certainly not in the 2000s. And even then in the 90s, it was only going to work for 5 seconds. It was not going to work for very long. Anyway, Mary is trying to be very polite with Gluck and saying that she didn't schedule a meeting and that the talent is booked for the year, so there's going to be no meeting with Gluck about Bin Laden. But Gluck is very persistent, and she is walking with Mary and talking with her about trying to get just a few minutes of Mary's time to take a look at Bin Laden. And Mary reluctantly says 5 minutes, tonight at 5. And Gluck even throws some shade at our boy Cosme when she says...
And this little Chinese man? He's Filipino. Bin Laden makes this guy sound like nails on a chalkboard.
Nails on a chalkboard? I'm sorry. Nails on... Excuse me. You must have never heard our boy sing Suspicious Minds. The greatest version of Suspicious Minds to have ever been sung. Elvis who? Wayne what? Cosme. Who was that familiar looking woman who played Rose Gluck? Why, that was Lisa Ann Walter. Lisa Ann Walter came on my radar before Las Vegas. I'd seen her before. She started as a stand-up. Her first credited role was in My Wildest Dreams, where she had a starring role alongside Mary Jo Keenan, another one of my favorite actresses, and Kelly Bishop, for 6 episodes that only lasted. She then immediately came on to a Whoopi Goldberg movie as Claudine, one of Whoopi's friends in the movie Eddie. She then went on to have her own show. She was hot. Like, Hollywood liked her. Hollywood liked her and was giving her chances. And so in 96, she had her own TV show called Life's Work on ABC. I remember this. I remember this show was on ABC. It had 18 episodes. I don't remember ever seeing it, but I do remember the advertisements for it. And she was the lead role. She played Lisa Hunter in that. She also did another very similar show to Las Vegas. It keeps coming up. Every once in a while, it keeps coming up. Love Boat, the next wave. Because I keep saying Las Vegas is a lot like Love Boat. It keeps coming up. She then did this episode of Las Vegas. She then goes on to co-star with Christine Taylor from Hey Dude fame. She also married somebody. And future Las Vegas recurring guest star favorite Jerry O'Connell for something called Room 6 as Sergeant Birch. So she's got her Las Vegas connections all over the place. A whole generation of people also first recognized her, and this is probably where I first saw her, in The Parent Trap as Chessie. The what's her name? The Lindsay Lohan Parent Trap. Yeah, yes. She's also in an episode of Glow, and nowadays you can see her on Abbott Elementary as Melissa Schimenti? Has to be Schimenti. I've seen it. Like, I don't necessarily know how to say her name, but I've seen a couple episodes of the show. It's fine. The hype train hasn't reached me. To me, it just feels like The Office in a school. She was a gourmet chef who's shown off her skills to former co-star Emerald Lagasse, because she was on Emerald's show too, as like his agent. That was a terrible show. Don't go find that one. Do not go find that one. By the way, after The Parent Trap, a few years after The Parent Trap, where she plays the nanny to the twins, she had twins of her own, if that wasn't cosmic enough. And so here, speaking of cosmic, she's here talking trash to our boy Cosme. So for that alone, I almost want to say off with her head, because Cosme is sacred to us here in the Las Vegas community. But we're going to see what Rose Gluck has to offer here later in this episode, because she is coming back. But until she does...
Ciao, ciao. Bye-bye. Thank you.
So we cut to Danny and Ed walking along, talking about the pickpocket. Danny talks about how there's a poem in the wallet, and he kind of brushes it off. But Ed is not having that brush off stuff.
It's too bad. You know, he had his daughter's poem in there. She can write another poem. What is the matter with you? Did you ever hear of anything called sentimental value?
Yes, sir, that's my mistake.
Danny also tips off Ed to Sarasvati, bringing up the discrepancies with the slot machine, and Ed waves it off because it's not a lot yet. Ed is on his way to the spa, where he talks to the receptionist and asks about Jillian being there, and the spa worker has to reluctantly figure out who she's going to be loyal to, either Jillian or Ed, because...
Is my wife still here? Robin, it's really not that hard. Is my wife here?
She was checking in, but then she left.
Did she say why?
No, she didn't.
Ed isn't taking that as at face value. Ed can see that this receptionist has something in her mind that she doesn't want to talk about. She doesn't want to say until she is kind of forced to.
Robin, you know, I'm pretty good at reading people, and right now, I'm reading that there's something you don't want to tell me. Is that correct?
She left with Mr. McGrath of Sugar Ray.
Mark McGrath?
So Ed, Big Ed DeLine is sitting here worried about Jillian walking off with Sugar Ray's Mark McGrath. And they are very friendly on the cameras, but they're not... It doesn't look like flirting. Like, the closest thing you have is Mark kind of coming in because he wants to hear something that she may have said, but it's not necessarily anything to worry about to me. But then Ed calls Jillian at home, says he tried her cell, and she didn't reach out then either, and so he's kind of worried, if we're being perfectly honest. He wants to talk to her. He probably wants to ask her, hey, what's this thing with Mark McGrath? But luckily for him, he doesn't get a hold of her immediately. So Danny comes back in and he's saying that he checked the tapes and he saw the same guy pulling out the $500 every day. Now, by the way, that's a halfway decent number, because $500 underneath the radar enough so that you shouldn't necessarily arouse suspicion. It's also small enough so that the casino doesn't need your social security number to cash you out. You just cash out and you can leave. Ed is a little less worried about that, though, because he's still preoccupied with the issue he thinks he's having with Jillian. And Ed then is convinced by Danny to at least pull the machine. But then Ed decides that he wants to talk to Danny about the situation with Jillian.
Let me ask you a question. If you were married and... what the heck am I asking you for? I mean, I got razor blades lasted longer than your most serious relationship.
If I were married, what?
Danny's trying to give the best advice he can give, but he doesn't know all the details. And Ed is not going to give him all the details, but he does relay the human interaction part to Delinda or to Danny and says, what the heck does that mean? And Danny says,
well, I know what it means. See, Jillian, she was supposed to have this appointment at the spa today, and
he looks up at Danny and he he doesn't want to tell Danny. He decides he wants to wave it off and not seek the advice. But Danny actually has some halfway decent advice. Talk to your wife. Yeah. Think about that. Danny says talk to the person you seemingly have a problem with. Wow. What an idea. Revolutionary even. So Ed and Danny go down to the front because somebody has actually picked up the guy's wallet. And he hands it over, including the money. Guy says he was walking down, he found it in the bushes, he heard about the robbery, and he decided he was going to bring it back. And when he read the poem is when he thought he should bring it back as soon as possible. The guy says he has a son. He knows what that means. And the poem reads,
I love you, Dad, because you're nice. I love you once. I love you twice. I love you because you don't get mad. I love you because you're always Dad.
And Ed gives this stupid, cheesy smile on his face as he's listening to the poem. And Danny comes in with...
Wow, almost makes me want to have kids. Yeah, almost.
And, which, listen, for a significant... I get where Danny's coming from. I totally get where Danny's coming from. Ed says...
You don't have to be a smartass about stuff like that.
The guy comes back and he says he brings in the wallet. He brings in the cash too, $9,500. So the whale spent $500 at some point, probably on tips. That $9,500, by the way, translates to nowadays $15,999.19 that young man just brought back in. Guy says, I'm glad it all worked out. Ed decides he wants to give him a reward or something, but the guy says, no thanks, not necessarily. He just wants to help. The guy just wants to help. He's just being a nice guy, just being a nice Samaritan. He doesn't even want a room. He doesn't want to go to the Sugar Ray concert, which makes Ed look twice at Danny because Ed has his issues with Sugar Ray right now. But the guy says he's going to think a good thought for the people.
I'll think a good thought for you. Wow. Refuses a reward, returns $10,000 in cash, and thinks a good thought for us? Somebody ought to nominate him for sainthood.
By the way, when the guy walked away, you could see a hole in the shoulder of his sweater. Who is the guy? I think he's going to come back, so we might as well talk about him. That guy is actor John Grease. Grease? I think it's Grease. His first credited appearance on anything was... Well, that can't be right. Well, maybe it is. His first credited appearance on anything was in 1967 in something called Will Penny, where he played Horace Greeley Allen back in 1967, which is amazing. He then played Ron in More American Graffiti. I'm assuming he played Ron Howard, or a version of Ron Howard's character in More American Graffiti. He then went on to co-star as Tony in Running Scared with Billy Crystal and Gregory Hines. I point that out because that's one of my favorite movies. And the theme song to that movie, Sweet Freedom, I also found around the same time I found Las Vegas. So both of them, both Las Vegas and that song, Sweet Freedom by Michael McDonald, hold a very special place in my heart because they both helped get me through that tough time. And that's why I point that out. He was also a Monster Squad, don't you know? And apparently, the character he played has nards. He then goes on to star in Martin as Sean McDermott for 54 episodes, which is where I first saw him, where I first recognized him. Sean was the engineer for Martin Lawrence's character in his radio station on that show. You know him. You know who I'm talking about. He then goes on to 90210 to play a dope dealer for 4 episodes. He then plays Rusty and a homeless man for 2 episodes of Seinfeld, which is where a lot of people recognize him because Seinfeld played for as long as it did. He did 82 episodes of The Pretender, another very good show on NBC at the time. Very good show as Brutes. He then does Napoleon Dynamite as Uncle Rico, which is another thing a lot of millennials recognize him from, right on the heels of him being in this episode where he plays Greg Walker, we'll later find out his name is. He then goes on to do 2 episodes of Carnival. And the reason I bring that up is because we just left New Orleans and Carnival. So why don't we talk about this guy in Carnival? I wonder if they're in the same universe where he leaves this episode and goes on to be a Texas Ranger. Fast forward through a couple of different things, including an episode of Psych, and he later goes on to... Oh, that'll never get old. He then goes on to... I heard it too. He then goes on to do... an episode of Hawaii Five-O, the Scotty Converse, yes, where he plays Liam Miller. He then goes on to star in something with Tatiana Ali and Ricky Schroeder called Locker 13, if you can believe it. Archie in the segment Title Story. The latest thing you can see him in, he's got a couple things in post-production right now. The latest thing you can see him in is It's Florida, Man, as Denver for an episode. That's John Grease, and John Grease, we'll call him Greg Walker because I don't know how to pronounce his last name. He turns around, he walks off. Meanwhile, Danny is seeing the guy pull the slot fixer of the system, pull out his play card, and is about to walk away. Back in Ed's office, Jillian comes in and she apologizes for jumping all over Ed during lunch and has decided that she understands that Ed has responsibilities with his position at the job. However, Ed is not really thinking about that right now. He's thinking about Mark McGrath, and he at least tells the story of the guy who returned the wallet and how good that was. But Jillian has decided that she's going to push Ed to give him the reward. This is where Jillian is actually going to be... Oh, do you hear that? Did you hear it? I heard it. It sounds like a little Montecito magic is about to be sprinkled right here. I don't know why I sound like Macho Man for half a second, but I'm not going to do it. I'm fighting a cough, but the Montecito magic is going to be sprinkled a little bit here, and it's Jillian who's going to be the one who precipitates it, you see.
Well, maybe he said he didn't want one. I mean, some guy brings back thousands of dollars in cash and he gets a slap on the back. How does that reflect on the Montecito? How does that reflect on you?
Okay, I'll see to it that he gets a reward.
Good.
Ed then asks how the massage was. She says fabulous and asks to be walked out. And that makes Ed think twice.
So, how was your massage?
Fabulous. Come on, walk me out.
Danny is in surveillance with the surveillance crew, and Sarasvati is in the middle of them, and she is soaking it all in. Danny reveals that they checked the guy's card. It's a fake name.
The rating card he used was issued to Benjamin Dover. Ben Dover. That was our first hint that something was going on.
It was obvious from the mathematical progressions.
The address he used doesn't exist. This is the man who submitted the application for the card that this man used. So what do you say, Sarasvati? Something rotten in Vegas?
This will teach you not to doubt me.
Huh. All right, let's get an ID. Quit talking back.
Sarasvati. Oh, she is a gem. Listen, to me, Sarasvati could have been a queen of the Montecito had she stuck around longer than she eventually does. I dig me some Sarasvati. Man, I dig me some Sarasvati. Anyway, you know what? She might be the thing that saves this episode. She might be I haven't given my rating on this episode yet. If I'm still cheesing like this about Sarasvati by the time we get to the end of this episode, she might be the thing that saves it. Mary is in Mystique, and here's this guy Bin Laden, and he is singing, and he's trying to, I guess, semi be funny.
That's what I want. That's what I want. Your loving gives me a thrill. But your loving don't pay the bills. Except for a couple of those chickies over there at the bar.
While singing the song Money, That's What I Want. I guess that's a musical check, I suppose. You know the song. You've seen it all over the place. And he's pretending to be funny, and he is not funny. Which, this is making me think, okay, we're going to find out more about Rose Gluck as this episode progresses. But she saw talent in it. Like, she decided that she was going to book this guy? Really? Really? This guy can get an agent? Listen, as someone with talent, and as someone who has seen talented people for a significant portion of his life, especially growing up in Southern California, you're around it. I grew up around stars. I grew up around stars. Literally. He got an agent? Okay. Okay. Even Rose Gluck. But he got an agent? Okay. So, Rose Gluck is trying to sell her wares, even not necessarily Bin Laden, but she's trying to sell more of her talent to Mary Connell. Rose Gluck thinks that the Montecito is going to be the place to display the stable of talent that she's got in her repertoire. And Bin Laden was the first name. That was the best that she had to offer. Because something like this, you don't come in with second string, third string, and you're going to hit them later. You got to hit them fast. You got to hit them hard. And this is what she decided to come with. Okay. So Mary says, leave now or I'll call security.
Understood. So happens I got another client, and why I didn't think of him before, I should be dragged naked over broken glass, but he is exactly...
Leave now, or I call security.
You know, something's been just sticking up here. Look, you remember when you said your massage was fabulous?
Uh-huh.
Well, I checked the spa, and they said you canceled your appointment there.
But that was canceled, and Jillian says, you think I'm lying to you? You checking up on me? By the way, yes, he did think that she was lying to him. And yes, he did check up on her. But yes, she was lying to him. She actually, do you see the deflection? You see the deflection? She deflected. She was like, you think I'm lying to you? You checked up on me? Because she understands that was her stronger point. She started with, you think I'm lying to you, but she knew that she actually was lying to him. So she deflected to, you checked up on me? You looked into my misgivings? How dare you, Ed? That's what she did. That's what she actually did. Angel or not, Jillian for sure did that deflection gimmick. Fellas, don't ever let them get away with that. I saw you. You were looking at me? I was looking at you doing the thing. That's what I was looking at. I was looking at you doing the thing. Jillian makes up an excuse about her masseuse not being there or whatever, but this entire time what she doesn't say two magic words. She doesn't say Mark McGrath is what she doesn't say. Jillian does say, let's try to get through the week. Ed and Danny talk about the slot cheat, but then Ed deflects to the Greg Walker guy and trying to get him a reward because Ed is trying to get back in good graces with Jillian immediately because she's right there. Make sure it's a generous one. And so he sends Danny off on this essentially wild goose chase to find this guy and make sure that he gets a little bit of the Montecito magic. He's put that Montecito magic in overdrive. Jillian sprinkled it, but Ed is putting it right into high gear. Ed wants it to happen, and so it's gonna have to happen.
But first, I'd like you to find this old Greg Walker guy, and get him a reward, okay?
He doesn't want a reward.
I know that, but we gotta find him and give him one. Make sure it's a generous one, too. Look, you can't have a guy like that, a nice guy like that, walking out of our casino empty-handed. It just doesn't make us look very good. I mean, don't you agree?
He's just trying to get back on the good side.
It's a private joke. I don't know. Anyway.
Danny's back in surveillance, talking to Mitch about Greg. Good to see Mitch back. About Greg Walker. The closest thing they have is a 12-year-old picture with this bad toupee. This terrible toupee. And Mitch is talking about there's been no employment records, no financial records for the last 12 years. Well, that's not true. He was an engineer for Martin out in Detroit. 12 years ago, from when this was on, he was out in Detroit setting up calls for Martin's talk radio show. According to Mitch, it's like this guy fell off the face of the planet, and so Danny goes out to where the guy found the wallet and is literally walking around the city looking for remnants of that man at all. In doing so, Ed talks to a guy who's putting flyers on his car, and the guy directs him to a homeless encampment. And he's looking around, and he sees a tarp, a blue tarp. He's looking through different pockets, and he finally finds him. And it turns out Greg Walker's homeless. He's setting up camp on a tarp.
Keep it. Hey, wait a minute. Have you seen this guy?
Yeah. See that guy before? Down
Craig?
Yeah.
What?
So Danny and Greg start to walk, and turns out that we hear the hard luck story of Greg Walker and what happened.
You may not believe this, Mr. McCoy, but 10 years ago I had a life. I had a great house in Denver. I was married. Great son. Guess I still have a son. Anyway, if you ask me how I ended up here, the fact is I couldn't really tell you.
And Danny reveals that he wanted to give him at least a couple $100 and some bed sheets. Why? In order to remind him of what he had and what he's not going to have again. That's not a wild line of thinking. And they talk about the homeless situation, and at least this guy's homeless situation, and how quickly it disappeared for him. That is a story that is almost as old as the general current capitalist system itself. Certainly since around the time of the Depression in the 1930s. Wild that I have to emphasize 1930s because we're 5 years away from the 2030s, from the 2030s. Oh, anyway, it's a tale that's not new, and it's a tale that's not old either. You hear it a lot now, although now people are more cognizant. They're clearer about being able to pinpoint when downfall, like what specific catalysts for stuff generally are. A lot of the time, is stuff like medical debt. So, but it can and it does happen very fast, because most people aren't exactly affluent to begin with. Most people are juggling things and bills anyway. So when too many things go, it doesn't take too many things. It really can only take one thing to go horribly wrong, and you end up here or worse. Like Greg Walker here seems to be halfway together for someone who's living on the street. Like his clothes don't look wildly disheveled. Like there was a hole in the sweater that he was wearing when he was in the casino. The one that he's wearing now, there doesn't seem to be. He doesn't look filthy. He looks like he at least found a place to wash up. He probably has found some place to eat. He's found different ways to live on the street. He's not a complete vagabond. Like he's not completely disheveled like some people are. He doesn't look like he's necessarily on drugs or anything like that, which is easy to fall into because when you're in that situation, a lot of times you figure, what's the point? So he's TV homeless. He's clean enough TV homeless, which because TV has two specific types of homeless, which is completely disheveled, making fun of, and then the homeless person that we're going to talk about who seems like they're poor, but we're going to say like they don't necessarily look quote unquote homeless. And that's kind of what Greg Walker is in this episode, which you can have your discussions on and your debates on how you feel about it. And that may be one of the reasons deep down why this isn't one of my favorite episodes, but we still haven't really gotten into all that yet. This plot line is a significant reason why I'm not a fan of this particular episode, just because of how they play it out. We haven't gotten to the real parts yet that we can talk about that I've always never liked. We're getting there. So Danny and Greg are talking And we find out that Greg has a son who just turned 22, and he doesn't even know where he lives. This is going to be the Montecito magic that is going to go into play, where Danny is going to try to find his son, bring him to Las Vegas, and have them reconnect. Greg says, "I've always loved my boy no matter what," and that is very touching. The father-son relationship is a hard dynamic too, but that's one that we're going to try to reconnect here. So good on Danny for that.
Why don't you take a little break?
Yeah, that's a good idea. I'm gonna stretch the legs, wash the face, refocus.
There you go.
I assume you're interested in large amounts of money.
It's Vegas, who isn't?
If you like the podcast and you want to help support it, you can send a Cash App, join our Patreon or Subscribe Star, or buy us a coffee. Just search The Podecito on all those platforms. Ed is in Mystique talking with Delinda for half a second about Jillian and their situation, at least a little bit. And Ed asks if there's been any changes in Jillian.
Other than her hair? Mom, what's going on?
She changed her hair?
Well, she lightened it last week and had it styled a little differently.
I didn't notice that.
Word of advice, Dad. Women hate it when men don't notice stuff like that.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. It's a thing. There are different things with women. It's a thing. It's definitely a thing with women. Delinda says maybe that's the change. She's pissed off. Ed says, nah, I don't think. And you know what? It's not just that. But apparently Jillian has mentioned something about being in a rut and not necessarily being happy or excited about stuff, at least to Delinda. And so Ed is picking up a little bit more information about his wife, as he should, but he also should have known something. Like, he also should have asked questions. He really should have done what Danny asked and talked to her. Blocked out some time to talk to her. Although I understand from his situation, because it's easy to get busy. It's very easy to get busy. Even when you're not running a president of operations of the Montecito, right? I'm not doing that, and I'm busy all the time. And it's a lot. So we cut back to the casino floor, and we see Danny and Sam walking through the casino floor because Sam is going to try to use her connections to link up Greg Walker and his son. And in comes Ed, and they're talking about the cost that it's going to take to make this bit of Montecito magic happen. Meanwhile, Ed is only semi and tangentially interested in that. He finds Mikey. And this is another good use of the space. We're still in that era of Las Vegas where they're making good use of the space that they have right now. We have done. Do you remember? I think it was Hellraisers and Heartbreakers where we did the closer shots of the small area of the casino. It wasn't a big, vast area. It wasn't a whole casino. It was a set. It was clearly a set, and the way that they maneuvered the cameras were different in different episodes to try to make it seem like it's larger. That's what they're doing here. They maneuvered around. They did a corner walk and talk shot till they came basically back around to semi the same spot. A little bit, about 3/4 of the way around, and almost a 3/4 circle that they did.
Put Walker in his suite, get him some clothes to make him look like he belongs in his suite, and then we're going to get our PR person to come up with some plausible, this is why I've been gone for the past 10 years explanation.
Yeah.
So, is this a casino or a friggin' Oprah episode?
Ed's the one that wants this. Hey, Ed, so I found Greg Walker, and we thought of a great reward for him, but it's going to cost a little more than we expected.
Right.
I know you wanted to
just handle it, okay? Mike!
Yeah. Danny had me take a look at that slot machine you pulled off the floor. I think I got it figured out.
So Ed has talked to Mikey, and he is going to try to bring Mike up to surveillance as Mike comes up, and he's talking to him about what's happening with the slot machine.
The Montecito rating card was the trigger. The magnetic strip was pre-programmed with an algorithm that caused the random number generator to pay out a jackpot after 3 plays. Put the card in, 3 plays later, you win.
You think they were working with somebody in-house?
I doubt it. Anyone here would need hours with the machine, and it's been on the floor the whole time.
So I'm assuming Had to be somebody connected with the manufacturer.
Most likely.
There's a good connection here. I like this back and forth between Mike and Ed here. And I like the fact that Ed knows what we all know, what the creators of Las Vegas knows, what we as the fans know. Mike can't just be in valet. He's too good a character. James Azure is too good an actor. You can't do much. There's only so much you can do with him as a valet in this type of setting. You got to bring him inside. And so they're going to bring him inside. Ed's talking about it and said, pretty soon we're going to have to bring you in. And Mike says that he would like that. But Ed also talks to Mike about doing a little something for Ed.
Well, I'm going to need somebody that, I really, really trust. That's you, Mike.
Good morning. What's the job?
I need you to follow Jillian.
Come again, sir?
I just, for a couple days, I need you to watch her.
This is a joke, right, Mr. D?
You see me smiling.
That's quite the task that Ed is assigning to Mike, and that's quite the responsibility. And Mike, his loyalty is going to be tested here, but Mikey, the coolest man in Vegas, I think he's up for the job, don't you? We cut back to the casino, and Rose Gluck is stalking Mary again, and she is stalking with Montecito's newest comic, Hard Drive.
Hard Drive. Because Gallagher, Carrot Top. Now, listen, I don't need to tell you that these days it's prop comedy that's all up in here.
Hey, you want to see time fly?
Don't throw that clock.
And the jokes that Hard Drive tells, it's almost, again, it's one of these things where I have to wonder, does Rose, I know she's desperate to be in a talent management position, but isn't part of that finding somebody with actual talent that you can get behind? You know what I mean? Like, I finished The Fabulous Miss Maisel, which is overall a really good show. There's definitely pockets and episodes that I could do without. But it's overall a really good show. And the key component of that show is you have Mrs. Maisel, and then you have her manager / best friend through life, or through this pocket of life, who recognizes her talent and pushes and fights for her talent. It's not just, I grab any old body and I'm going to be a manager now. No, there's somebody who I truly believe in, who I truly appreciate their talent, and I'm going to fight for it. Entourage. Ari Gold fought for Vinny Chase every step of the way because he truly believed in Vinny Chase. He fought and he scratched and he clawed for Vinny Chase because he believed in Vinny Chase. He even eventually got to the point where he fought and he scratched and he clawed. Well, did he really fight for Johnny Drama? He didn't really fight for Johnny Drama. But he gave Johnny Drama some... He didn't really fight for Johnny Drama. He didn't. But he did, because he didn't really believe in Johnny Drama. He believed in Vinny Chase, though. And he fought for Vinny Chase. And that's... Come on. I was a professional wrestling manager for a while. And the point is, me as a professional wrestling manager, was I believed in my client. I believed in my clients. If I was managing somebody, I believed in them. It wasn't just, this is a guy I'm going to be stuck with and I think I like. No. I believed in them. I believed that they could work. I believed that they could be top talents in whatever company I was managing them in. I don't believe Rose Gluck believes in these suckers. And they're not even written well badly. Like these are 30-year-old hack terrible grade school jokes back then. Ugh. So Mary, before she leaves over to the ladies' lounge and says that if they don't leave by the time she gets back, she's going to have them arrested, and I don't blame her. Sam, Danny, and Greg Walker are in the hotel suite, and Greg Walker is in a suit, and he looks halfway decent in it, although the suit, I don't know if the suit necessarily fits him. It's all right. It's fine. It's fine for 2004 suit. And so they're talking about the story that they've got in terms of why he's been gone for so long, and it's too convoluted for me to try to explain, so I'll let them try to do it.
Sam, you want to run through that story?
Yes, I do. You worked for the International Red Cross in Angola, then a hospital supply company in Kuwait.
And why didn't I call them?
No phone.
But they have phones in Kuwait and Angola.
Yeah, I told the PR guy that, and he said that you didn't have a phone in Angola because you were out in the jungle and you couldn't afford a satellite phone, and when you got back to the city, his number had changed, and
Do you really think this is going to work?
Yeah.
I don't.
I don't either. This is stupid. But Roger, the PR guy, can't fill in 10 years of Greg's life on a few note cards. Now, I think that you should tell your son the truth.
I believe in Sam. They should just go with the truth. Speaking of going with the truth, it's Mike following Jillian. And Mike has reservations. He's saying it's wrong, it's a waste of time. Ed is checking with Mitch to see if Mike called. He did not call, but now Ed is checking in on the guy who's doing the slot thievery. Him, Mitch, and Danny are going back and forth with that, as well as Greg Walker. And in the middle of that, Danny gets a call.
Greg Walker's kids coming in. Surveillance.
Is that Mike?
All right. Jammed escalator.
Calm down. Mike says that he's following Jillian and he is not comfortable with this. He's saying he's probably going to the mall. Although it is pretty late at night for her to be going to the mall. Even in Vegas. I'm pretty sure the malls aren't open that late, even in Vegas. Even in the casino, shops close at some point. So Mike is following, and
This is getting a little funky.
And it is getting funky, Mike, because it's Jillian hugging and holding hands with Mark McGrath as they walk up the stairs, and Mike says,
That's gonna kill this guy.
Yeah, he probably will. If he finds out, he probably will. We cut to McCarran Airport, and it's Sam getting out the limo, and we see Greg Walker's son, Kevin, come from the VIP terminal, and he says, I still can't believe I was randomly selected. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, it's never random. It's never random. Don't believe it's not. It's never random. To the point where you have to enter it to begin with. It's never actually random. So Mike is in Ed's office and he's talking with Ed about the fact that Jillian went to go to Mark McGrath's apartment.
And they were holding hands.
Yeah.
And it was definitely his apartment building.
Yeah, I picked him up from there.
Thank you, Mike. Good job.
Sorry about this, Mr. D.
And Ed snaps a pencil like he's gonna snap Mark McGrath's neck. Like a pencil neck geek. But it's not out of rage. Like, you see the look on his face, it's fear. It's fear. You see fear on Big Ed DeLine's face. That almost looks so out of place, but James Caan is such a good actor that he still sells it. It's fear, it's sorrow, it's all these emotions, and Mike just says, I'm sorry about this. Ed almost looks like he wants to cry. Danny and Walker are in the hotel suite, and Sam brings the son Kevin in, and Kevin is impressed with the suite, but then he turns around and he sees his dad for the first time in a long time. And Greg Walker is nervous. He says, I'm sorry. Kevin was set up entirely. He asked a good question.
Your dad wanted to see you, and we thought...
Well, if he wanted to see me, why didn't he pick up the phone? You think some private jet and a suite makes that all okay? Screw you. You know, I've survived 10 years without you.
I don't think another 50 will be a problem. I'm gonna be at the bar downstairs. All right, when your plane is ready to fly me home, just let me know.
Kevin. Kevin!
That's a big statement. That's a big statement right there. And he goes to the bar just to drink away the harshness of what just happened. There was no tact in this at all. There was no skill in this at all. They thought they were being clever with the stupid, you were picked at random thing. But there was no consideration for Kevin or his feelings at all in this. That's another reason why this is one of my favorite episodes. Let's talk about that actor, though. That actor is Jeffrey Wigdor. That actor, Jeffrey Wigdor, just as I'm recording this, had a birthday January 23rd. You have seen him in a couple of different things. The very first credit that he has to his name is an episode of The Babysitter's Club as Barrett. He also starred alongside Dustin Hoffman, Robert De Niro, and Brad Pitt in Sleepers in 1996 as Young John. How about that? He was also in Loving, which was a show for 74 episodes as J.J. Forbes. He did this episode of Las Vegas. And the last thing you can see him in is a credit was on Elementary as Charlie Riggs back in 2014. Although Jeffrey Wigdor, looking him up, he does do some online hosting of different things. I saw him, there was a hosting some, I think it was a TikTok show, or at least a show that I found on TikTok when looking up his information. So I think he really goes by Jeff Wigdor now, Geoff Wigdor. So if you look him up, you can find him. He's hosting a couple different things around. So we cut to Ed in a hall, and he goes to a guy's apartment. We don't know why he's coming to the guy's apartment until the guy opens up, and clearly it's the guy Chester Cobb, the guy who's been ripping off the slot machines. And Ed bulldozes his way through because he's Big Ed the Line, and he's not thinking in the most rational or the most compassionate state. And the guy's talking about the payout.
I'm from the Montecito Hotel, but you probably figured that out, right?
Oh, wait a minute. This is about my payouts, huh?
There you go.
Hey, I played and I won fair and square, man. I'm sorry.
Really fair and square. You got that rating card, you know, the one that makes you win?
Rating card? I never even heard of that.
Right. Come here, Chess.
Ed is not having any of this guy's guff, right? He busts in, and he says that he talks to the guy about the situation really with Jillian. And he talks about how hearing the news that Jillian may have been unfaithful, Ed wants to inflict pain on somebody, and he's going to do that. There's no reason why he would necessarily want to come down to bust some guy for $500 wins, right? Realistically. And the show is at least recognizing that realistically, this guy probably wouldn't be caught that quickly, and certainly wouldn't be visited by the president of operations unless there's extenuating circumstances. And so they're using the idea that Jillian may or may not have been unfaithful to Ed as justification for Ed coming down and busting the guy. So, and the guy tells Ed the story of how it all goes down. He gets the rating cards every once in a while, and for a profit, for a cut of it, he comes in and he splits it with the guy who gives him the rating card.
I get it from a guy who works at the factory. His name's Ben something. I meet him at the mall. We split money.
Then you want to talk to him right now.
Danny and Mike sit and talk about the Greg Walker situation before both the slot machine guys are brought into the casino. Not the police office, but the casino to be dealt with. And that's interesting. I never even thought about that. That's interesting. He brings them back to the casino, not to Metro. What exactly are they? I guess he's gonna do that first and then send them off to Metro. There's probably some paperwork or something that maybe the Montecito has to do to record to get them on record. Maybe get them in the black book or something like that. That's interesting. That's interesting that he bring him to the casino first, other than the fact that you know, that would just be another set for the show for no reason whatsoever, and they got to bring him back to the casino. So Ed talks to Mike about the slot machine guys and says that Jillian's picking him back up.
Well, now I got this other thing I got to take care of. Jillian's picked me up in an hour. Well,
Mike has been a very compassionate towards his fellow Montecito crew members here, hasn't he? In the last couple episodes, he's really been an emotional tether for them. Hold on a second. Let's get a new deck in here, and we'll be right back. You're listening to Rainy Days Don't Get Me Down by Anthony Njoku. If you like what you're hearing, want to hear it again, hear more, or both, just go to tinyurl.com/anjoku. That's tinyurl.com/anjoku. Danny meets with Kevin down in the Belisara, and he tells him that the plane is coming back to pick him up to L.A., but Danny then decides that he's going to talk to him and try to get him to at least talk to his dad, and he explains the story to him, that his dad found the wallet, and that for a while he's been homeless, and that he should probably reconnect with his dad while he's got the chance. They've been using Danny for this role in the last couple episodes too, right? Like you have a chance to reconnect with your parent. Danny's been using that role, and he's effective in that role because you all know the history of Danny and his mother at this point in the series. It's effective. Jillian comes into surveillance to pick up Ed to go to the concert. Ed asked Jillian specifically about what's going on with Mark McGrath.
what do you got going on with this Mark McGrath?
Nothing.
Well, you were at his apartment yesterday.
You had me followed?
You were seen there, and I don't remember you telling me anything about it.
Now, here's the thing. Ed, yeah, you had her followed. You probably should have had her followed. Why'd you have her followed? That is crossing a line. That is definitely crossing a line. Now, is he justified in crossing that line? So the way they kind of laid, and this is another thing, it's semi-inconsistent here. Because Ed has been paranoid about Jillian since the beginning of this episode, which is a trait that we've never really seen in Ed at all. I don't even think, not really. We've never seen this trait in Ed at all. And seeing this and seeing it activate like this, especially this close to their anniversary, it's a weird line. It's wonky. It's, as Mike said, it's getting funky. It doesn't jive with me. It just doesn't really jive. And then whose side are you supposed to be on? Because she's clearly lying to Ed, but then Ed is supposed to feel happy that she's lying to him, or eventually the way it works out, it's weird. There's lines you shouldn't cross, but at the same time you see some remnants of some semi-justification for Ed doing stuff like having Mike follow Jillian. Like, it's weird. It's just wonky. It's just weird tone for this show and for this episode. So Jillian's saying that there's nothing going on between the two of them, and that she went to his apartment, but she doesn't quite explain it.
Can we talk about this tonight at dinner? I promise you, I will tell you everything. I mean, you know me better than that.
And so Ed is going to brush everything off and go with Jillian. Mary's walking through the casino, and then she hears Rose Gluck as an attendant for the Montecito, and it turns out that she's working there.
Break the bank.
Rose?
Thanks a lot.
Hey, you work here now?
Yeah, well, actually, I applied a while ago. They just happened to call me yesterday, coincidentally, right after Bin Laden fired me, so...
I mean, she never should have signed with Bin Laden, if we're being perfectly honest. But Mary tells her you just need a client with some talent. Hey, how about that? Rose says, what are you going to do? Find somebody with talent. There are open mic nights all over the place. Especially in a place like Vegas, find somebody with talent. Find somebody with talent and make some connections somewhere. That's what you're supposed to do if you want to be a manager. It just happens to be that Cosme is walking by and Mary asks Cosme if he's still looking for an agent. And here's, boy, some Montecito magic is clicking in. And you can see over in the side as Rose is talking to the guy that she's giving quarters to. She hears the conversation and you can see her adjust herself. And she turns around and she's in Rose Gluck management mode.
Did you say you were looking for an agent?
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah? Okay. Rose Gluck, I'd like you to meet Cosme.
Cosme, just the one name. That's fantastic. I saw you the other night. You were incredibly talented, young man. Rose Gluck, Gluck Talent Management.
Great takeaway. And a nice little bit of Montecito magic. Nice little bit of Montecito magic there. Just a sprinkle. It's not the full load that we've gotten from the Greg Walker story yet, but just a little bit. So Sugar Ray's in concert. They're singing All the Things. You know that song. You've sung it before. And here comes Mark McGrath saying that there's a special request from a woman who has a special surprise for her husband on his 30th anniversary. Big Ed, come on stage.
I have a special request right now from a beautiful lady to the man that she loves on the occasion of their 30th anniversary. You know what? But Jillian, why don't you bring Ed on up here? Come on up. Come on up, guys. Jillian, Ed's on the line. Come on up. Indeed. Give it up.
The audience is cheering and they're applauding. And Sugar Ray is about to sing Every Morning. And Mark pops in with Every morning there's a halo hanging from a corner of my husband's four-post bed. This is where, for me, the episode really we've already talked about different elements where it falls off a cliff. This is another one where it falls off a cliff. First off, Sugar Ray had an album that was out at the time. The album was called In Pursuit of Leisure. They released it in 2003. This song that they're singing came from their 99 album. So why on earth would they sing that? When a recording artist comes onto a show, very often the agency, the label wants to promote their latest offering. So realistically, Sugar Ray should be singing something off of In Pursuit of Leisure. I listened to In Pursuit of Leisure. There really wasn't much on that album that they could sing that would fit this scene of Jillian and Ed being serenaded by Sugar Ray. There's really not. I don't think there's really anything in Sugar Ray's library that fits. Every Morning certainly does not. It has always bugged me to the nth degree that you have Mark McGrath here singing to Jillian and Ed about every morning and in his voice singing every morning there's a halo hanging from his husband's four-post bed. This particular song, which is not about that at all, and singing to these two people, this particular song, you couldn't even get them as a respected thing. I can see the instruments. They clearly play them. You couldn't get the band to cover another song, to cover a more romantic song. Okay, fine. So you couldn't get a more appropriate artist who was halfway big at the time, maybe, to come in and do something. You couldn't get maybe a Carlos Santana. I'd take Santana. You couldn't get a Carlos, and Santana had an album out around the same time too. You couldn't get a Santana. You certainly couldn't get a Prince. Fine. You've got Sugar Ray. The talent The casting has brought in Sugar Ray. Fine. They couldn't just cover something? They couldn't just cover something better? They cover something on the album, In Pursuit of Leisure. They cover something. Is She Really Going Out With Him? Which sounds terrible coming from them. Like, it seems, there's something, it seems douchier coming from them than it did from Joe Jackson. Joe Jackson made it seem more authentic, made you more sympathetic to the singer. Sugar Ray's version just sounds a little douchier. But the point is that they're capable of covering a song. So have them cover something. Have them cover anything. Have them cover anything else. Have them cover anything else that is more appropriate than this. But wait, it gets worse. Because as Sugar Ray is singing this wildly not super romantic song to Big Ed DeLine, Mark McGrath singing this to Big Ed DeLine and then dancing around like a douchebag also is killing me. Too, that mind you, his dance moves are better than Danny's, but he's not even like a douche. It's like a dork. And not an adorkable dork. It's just bad. It's not good. And then the lyrics that he's singing to Ed is just weird. It's just weird that he's singing these lyrics to Ed. Couldn't understand how did word get out. Once again, as predicted, left my broken heart open and Ed ripped it out. Like, what? What are they talking about? It doesn't. What? What is this? It doesn't. What is he talking about? But then it gets worse because it overlays with the reunion of Greg Walker and his son Kevin. This is somehow, I don't even know which is worse. Maybe I'll put this as a poll topic. Which is the worst in credits montage of the last two episodes of Las Vegas? Both involving Sam, by the way, because she's in this shot. Is it Nevada State, where you have whatever the song was on the original, I think it was Them Was, and if you're watching on the DVD, it's some terrible semi-Nelly song that's playing, and then whatever other song they have on streaming, between the cheerleading rally and Sam fighting for her life in the Nevada desert while she's hung up on the tire, while a mass, he wasn't serial, he's only one person, but while a violent killer is looking for Silver. The juxtaposition of that is terrible, and then this one is also terrible because now this one is trying to make you feel the mushy feelings with Greg Walker and his son, which should be a touching moment, but Sugar Ray playing over it negates the touchiness that's supposed to be in the moment. It negates whatever feelings you're supposed to actually feel for the moment of Greg Walker that we've spent the rest of this episode. We spent more time with Greg Walker than we did with Mark McGrath. And I'm supposed to be in this touching moment of the father-son reunion. And you got Sugar Ray singing in the background with Mark McGrath singing, he's not even pouring his heart out to Ed. It's clearly an obligation to him. It's clearly an obligation to James Caan and to Cheryl Ladd to have to sit there and pretend like this is a clever moment or this is a fun moment while they're sitting there hearing lyrics that don't apply to any. Those lyrics don't apply. Didn't apply to 14-year-old relationships back in '98 when the song came out. Let alone 50 and however many years old Jillian and Ed were supposed to be in this. 60 and however old Jillian is supposed to be in this. It's a terrible song choice, man. It is just awful. It is a terrible song choice. And to have it underneath this moment, it's terrible. I said this last episode and I'll say it again. Either find a song that does fit those two, if you insist, and I'm sure you can search for some kind of song that can fit those two moments. Either find that song or don't use the song there. Or figure out a different montage. But don't do that. Don't do that. This is bad. This is bad. This is why I don't like this episode. This is why I've never liked this is why I've never liked this episode. One of the biggest things that stuck out to me, that always stuck out to me, was the stupid Sugar Ray singing to Ed thing. I hated that. I always was like, what is this? This feels wrong. They jammed this corner piece in the middle of this puzzle. And it does not fit, but they are pounding. They are gonna make it fit. And no, they're not. Spoiler alert, no, they're not. Alright. But every morning when I wake up, Ed always rights the wrongs. Ugh. Ugh. That's just bad, man. That's just bad. That's just terrible. And then, luckily, Greg Walker and Kevin are getting the hell out of the Montecito with the magic that they've got. And we do have a good scene here. I do like this scene. This little scene here. We don't hear anything, but we still have to hear Sugar Ray's Every Morning playing over this.
Every morning there's a halo hanging from the corner of my husband's four-post bed. I know it's not mine, but I see it.
Where the whole Montecito crew get together for a big anniversary dinner with Ed and Jillian. By the way, not any of Ed and Jillian's friends, not any of their adult married friends that they know outside of work. The Montecito crew. But fine, I like this. I like it nonetheless. I dig it nonetheless. And they're at the head of the table, and they come back up to Ed's office, where Ed hands Jillian her present, and it happens to be a ring with 30 diamonds in it. And Jillian explains how it was so important to her that she surprised Ed. That's a lame-ass surprise. That's a terrible surprise. I'm sorry. That's an awful surprise. They're trying to they try to justify this with the reason Jillian was sneaking around behind Ed's back was because she wanted to surprise Ed with Mark McGrath singing to them? What? It's not Paul Anka. It's not Sinatra. It's not well, Sinatra was gone by then. Who was alive back then? So Tony Bennett or anybody else Ed probably would have liked back then. Celine? Get Celine tickets. Get Celine to sing to him. He might like Celine. He probably doesn't. But he might like Celine. Ugh. That's just terrible. That's bad. Yeah, But Jillian, her explaining it doesn't fit. But then they try to come together and say,
There isn't another man on this earth that I would even consider.
Okay, baby.
Ooh. That was smooth. Do that again.
Oh my God. What? Nothing urgent. I'll lock the door.
which I'm sure has happened to them many, many times over the years, but then Ed pushes a button and the windows come down in the office and they are going to christen Ed's office.
High tech.
And that is Sons and Lovers, as Every Morning continues to play as we exit from the episode. Not my favorite. Not my favorite. And I gave you the reasons why this wasn't my favorite. The aggregate score was a C. Here's the thing with me and rating stuff. If you can see some of the other stuff I've rated that's not Las Vegas. I did movie ratings and different ratings for different reviews for different things that I've seen on my original YouTube channel, Surreal, which is my name, Surreal469. Right? Now, I hardly want to say that because YouTube may be looking for me, but on that channel there's whole sections of reviews, whole playlists of reviews. Go and find reviews. A significant thing that happens to me is a lot of times if I talk about it too much, I will convince myself that it's worse than it is. I will fixate on things that I hated, and I have seen and heard myself in real time take something that started out as like 7, and then I talk about it and keep talking about it, and eventually it's a 4. But I don't want to necessarily do that for this episode of Las Vegas. However, I will say this: it's less than a 7. It's less than a 7 for me. It's an episode that if I don't watch, I don't miss. Does that make sense? If I don't watch it, I don't miss it. Now, mind you, there are some good elements in this. I want to be fair to it. We get to see Cosme again. I like Cosme. Unfortunately, it's for the last time. I like Rose Gluck's character, actually. Because I've always liked Lisa Ann Walter. Lisa, she's good. She's good at what she does. I like Sarah's body. We get to see Sarah's body again. And I said I might give this an extra point or two just because Sarah's body's in it. Because I love me some Sarah's body. To me, Sarah's body's right up there. She is right up there. John Grease in this was fine. The way they played him was uneven-handed. I guess we're getting to the negative now. I did not like the Mark McGrath story at all. I did not like how Ed acted in this at all. It seemed off for Ed. Ed, to me, seems more confident than that. It seemed off for me that he would go into this mode like this. I did like how Mike was faithful to Ed and, was loyal to his boss and his friend Ed. But I didn't like that. I didn't like how they played Jillian and how lame her surprise was. All this for the lame-ass surprise of being of a 60-something-year-old Ed DeLine being serenaded by Mark McGrath to a song that is just weird for that purpose, as opposed to just getting them to cover anything else. Anything else. Get them to cover anything else. In the NBC library. Your NBC Universal at this point. You've got the library. Have him cover anything else. Have him cover any of the songs you already own. But they didn't do that. I don't know. It's not my favorite episode of this. And we do see a young member of the family. It's not my favorite episode. The aggregate was 7. I don't know that I want to go that far. There are memorable. There are moments in it that keep it from being average. So I won't give it a 5 out of 10. But I can't give it more than a 6. I can't give this episode more than a 6. I'm particularly not a fan of this episode. You have Sarasvati, you have Paul Walker, you have Cosme. Those are good elements. Those keep it from 5 territory. I can't give it higher than a 6. I almost want to give it a 5.5. I can't give it more than a 6. It's not great. I cannot give it more. There are other episodes that are going to be worse. I cannot give it more. I'm gonna be generous. I don't even know if I want to be to that Mark McGrath. That's just bad. 5.5. I gotta give this one 5.5 out of 10 because the Mark. I'm doing it. I told you I would do this. I would think about it too often, think about it too much, and I will talk myself down. So I'm gonna settle at 5.5 out of 10 because I can't give it higher than a 6. The Sarah's body. She did. Sarah's body saved it. Sarah's body gave us some extra points. But she had to be backed up. She had to be backed up with Paul Walker, and she had to be backed up with Cosme. And Mike helped in his loyalty too, as well as Rose Gluck. So all that keeps it from 5 territory. So 5.5 out of 10 for me on this episode. It ain't one of my favorites. There's gonna be episodes that are lower than that. But those are seasons away. But my point of view doesn't necessarily matter. It's yours. Yours is the important one. You're the one I want to hear from. Yes, you right there listening to this right now. I want to hear from you. What do you think? What is your rating of this out of 10? What would you give this episode? I also want to know, I do want to know this. I am going to put this up as a poll after this drops. What is, I'll put this up as a poll whenever I put this up as a poll, but which montage at the end of the episode did you like more? I'll give that little twist. I won't say that you hated more, but which one did you like more I'll be more positive. How about that? I'm positive for the sake of being positive. See? I'm even saying this with a smile on my face. Did you enjoy Nevada State's montage more with the cheerleaders and the Sam and the Richard Allen Wesley in the desert? Or did you like this one more with the father and son getting back together and Ed getting serenaded by Mark McGrath? Which worked better for you? Which did you think was more suitable? That's the question of the week that I'm bringing to you, as well as who your VIP guest stars are for the episode. You can always vote for those. Those are appreciated. You can talk to us however you want to talk to us. We are on a whole bunch of different platforms, including but not limited to Twitter as the Podecito. But you already know that. You should know that. And before we take off, I do want to take a moment to thank the members of the Podecito crew. We have a guest of the Podecito, that's Angie, and we have our entertainment manager, Anthony, here at the Podecito. We appreciate you. If you want to join them on the Podecito crew, whichever level you want to get to, you can. You can do that by buying me a coffee. On the Buy Me a Coffee, you can do that with Subscribe Star. You can do that with Patreon. You can do that with Cash App. You can do that with Venmo. You can do that all different ways. You help support the podcast. The big thing that I'm looking to do right now is bring on somebody to help me with the audio on some level going forward. I don't know how I'm going to do that. I certainly need to do that because there's only so much. I trust me, I hear this podcast more than you do, many, many times over. So I hear the audio quality myself. And so I know that I need help with this audio quality. And so that's the next thing that's the thing, honestly, that's going to be used for is helping to upgrade the audio quality of the Podecito. We've also got a couple other things in the pipeline that I want to get going. We are very close to the end of the season. We are almost going to do episode 20. You will hear that one next week. That is The Strange Life of Bob. I like that episode. I am looking forward to that episode. We are going to go through The Strange Life of Bob with a very special guest star on the show, not necessarily the podcast. Maybe, hopefully, we'll see what happens. But very special guest star of the show will be we will be talking about him. I don't want to say that. We got this. No, we don't have him. We don't. But we'll be talking about him. That will be the character of Bob in the next episode. So, in the meantime, the in-between time, I want to thank everybody for joining me here on the Podecito podcast. Make sure you share this podcast with as many people as you can or want to, or if you hate the podcast and you hate somebody else, then share it with them too and punish them by giving me a click and a like and a share and all the other good stuff. In the meantime, the in-between time, thank you for joining me here on this journey, and we will see you next week for The Strange Life of Bob. And until then, please do me and yourself the biggest favor of all. Don't have Mark McGrath sing sweet nothings to your husband, but also take care.
No guilt, no shame, no pity. You play the game, baby.